Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast, friends. I'm with Dr. Keshia Pollack Porter. Hi, Keshia.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Dr. Keshia Pollack Porter is the Bloomberg Centennial Chair and Professor in the Department of Health Policy and Management at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Dr. Pollack Porter is also the Director of Health Policy Research Scholars. That's the National RWJF program. She is internationally known for her work in social determinants of health, health equity, promoting safe environments. Dr. Pollack Porter, I am so happy to have you here on the podcast, and you're so patient with me. We've been trying to schedule this for so long, and I have so many Zoom challenges, and you're so gracious to take care of this episode today and recording it on your end. But again, friends, Keshia does injury epidemiology, policy research, and for a period of time, she was the vice dean of faculty. Now she's doing faculty development in the Department of Health Policy and Management, which is 125 faculty members. You have a really wonderful leadership style about you that I'll just say a compassionate leader. And so I'd love for you to share how you engage with faculty members, particularly early career faculty members, whom we know really need some orientation and guidance to shore up confidence and have clarity around their goals. And things are crazy right now. So how do you engage as a compassionate leader?
Yeah, Kim, thanks for having me. Again, I'm really thrilled to be here. And one of the things that I appreciate about my role as chair is that I get to bring my passion for faculty development, which was one of the things I loved about being vice dean for faculty. It's one of the things that I miss most because that was my full job. Although I love being chair because I'm responsible for faculty, staff, students, alumni. But the faculty part is so important, especially because coming to a place like a Hopkins, level one research institution, soft money, people are stressed, writing grants, doing their scholarship, teaching, advising, mentoring. One of the things I always ask my faculty in the department, particularly the early career ones, are, how are you taking care of yourself? And I bring that question to the conversation because of a few things. One, particularly for the people who do work in areas that I work in, like health equity, structural racism, looking at structural drivers, the work is hard. It is hard because for many of us, it's personal. It also can be triggering sometimes when we think about our own experiences. And so I'm asking, how are you taking care of yourself in this space? In addition, as you said, there's just so much going on in the world. I feel like every day there's another crisis. And some of us, it impacts us directly, like our family members, our communities. But even if not, we might know somebody who's affected. We also just might be affected just because it's emotional. It's hard. We're wondering what's going on with the world, whether it's politics, whether it's a war, whatever's happening. And so I think it's so important that we as faculty take care of ourselves. I truly embrace that mantra from flights. I fly a lot. I'm sure you travel a lot. Put your mask on first. I truly believe that. I tell people, you got to take care of yourself because you can't take care of anybody else. If you are depleted and worn down, how can you step in and take care of others?
Well, thank you for amplifying that, for, underscoring the importance of that, because I think so often faculty members, especially early career faculty members, get the other message. They get the opposite message from that. And unfortunately, I think sometimes they get that message from us who have been in academia all our lives and we're later career faculty members who ask questions like, oh, you're just now getting in? Or, oh, you're leaving early? You're going home now? You're doing what with your children? Gosh, I remember spending, when I was starting off, I spent 7 days a week in the lab and I saw patients and then I was writing and I go on vacations and I write and those kind of messages that aren't meant necessarily, and I'm not saying necessarily, I don't think they're meant to be hostile or provocative. It's just that sometimes this juxtaposition of what one must do to be successful or what one did and where your values were maybe then are a little bit different today. So I think sometimes we are, we're sometimes the cause of some of that anxiety around, oh my gosh, I mean, can
Yeah.
I make it in this world? Can I make it in academia if
Mhm.
and have kids and have a life and have family and parents and a partner? Can I have a hobby? Am I allowed to do that? So
It's a lot.
what do people respond? What do faculty respond to like when you ask that question? They must be dumbfounded.
Yeah, I deep appreciation for the question for sure, right? Like, thank you for asking. Like, I really appreciate that you asked that. And I appreciate that you care about how I'm doing. I remember my early career times as an assistant professor on the tenure track on the grind. I remember I would, come in. I remember when I first started, I came in on the weekend to get my office set up. I was really excited. I had my boxes and I just wanted to come and put some music on. And I thought I'd be the only one there, and I was not, right? Like there were people working on that Saturday. I remember this so vividly. I went back that Sunday, like remember going to church in the morning, went to the office to finish setting up, and there were people there again, and the same people I saw the day before. And I thought, what is happening? Where am I at? Is this what's expected? Am I expected to be here every weekend? And I'm so grateful for mentorship because people who are wiser than me, especially than I was at that time, who had been doing this for a while, said, no, you can be successful here and you don't have to work 7 days a week. And I remember feeling like, is that real? Like, are you sure? Like, can I still be successful, quote unquote, make it along on the tenure track, get tenure, and not work 7 days a week? And for me, it really it took a while for me to embrace that. And so when I talk to my faculty now, I share these stories. I tell them like I resonate with where you are. Like I was there. And it might have been 20 years ago when I started my job and it's not today, but I had similar pressures. And so I think that sharing and being vulnerable is also part of showing up as a compassionate leader so that people know that they're not alone and if they are feeling tired or exhausted and giving them permission and also just telling them the things I do. I'm like, yeah, last weekend we flew to Ohio and went to 2 football games, Saturday and Sunday. And like, that's fine. Like people need to hear those things. Like, oh, or Keisha, your away message was out for a week. Where were you? I was on vacation. Really? And I think doing that also helps people to see like you can take those breaks. It's important while we're and balance it with our work schedules.
I think that is so lovely of you, not only as a human being to show such compassion, but as a leader to model that not only are you setting an example, you're not just saying it to be check a box like I'm trying, here I am being a compassionate leader and being human and being authentic, that you then demonstrate it, you live it, you show it that yes, this is what I do. And I think that I can imagine almost a temperature going down in the room and a kind of a sense of that exhale, like, oh, okay, so this is real. So if she's at this level and she's saying that and endorsing that, this must give me a lot of breathing room. So I'm imagining that you're really creating an environment and creating a culture where people that aren't afraid to say, hey, I'm going to pop out and go to my kids' whatever game, or I'm going to pop out and go get a massage. My shoulders are up around my top of my crown of my head, and I'll be back. That kind of
Yeah.
that freedom to say, I'm going to tap out a minute, but I'm coming back because I needed some time for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
knowing that the chair of the department is endorsing this, that it's not going to be frowned upon or kind of give a side eye. So I think that's just really, I must be so appreciated. And what are you hearing? And after the maybe initial shock, or probably by now the word's out that you're the real thing. What do they tell you? How are they taking care of themselves? Are
Yeah.
you hearing anything new or interesting or something that's worth sharing that we other faculty members could maybe like say, oh, that's a great idea. Anything
Yeah,
on in
I so
Hopkins that we
appreciate
should know?
this. And I mean, I think people, I'm hearing people say thank you, like thank you for giving us space to feel like we can prioritize ourselves. One of the other things I say often is, put your away message up, and that's such a small thing, right? But put it up if you're out of the office. Put it up and let people know you're off to not expect to hear from you. And I also tell people use that delay send in Outlook. Like that's been helpful. People have said, thank you for those tips because I'm using them. And the other thing I hear, particularly as we go through the process of recruiting new faculty, these faculty who I engage with in that way are telling these newer people, like, this is how the culture is here. And I think that that has been so important, right? So I don't know if I'm hearing sort of new things. People tend to keep, showing up as they and doing things that they enjoy, but just the space to be able to do it and feeling like they have permission to not work 7 days a week, right? And knowing that they're still going to be fine. And I remind people of that often. And it's the faculty, it's the staff, it's the students when I'm in front of them and reminding them about the importance of setting those boundaries. And again, I say this as somebody who was not good at this for a long time. I wasn't, but it just wasn't sustainable. I got to the point where I was feeling like exhausted and burnt out. I mean, I'm in my mid 40s now. I thought I'm in my when I was in my late 30s, I was like, I can't be burnt out in my late 30s. This is not going to work. I can't sustain this effort. So I feel better about where I'm at now, the balance. And I really try to set those boundaries and do things like shut down my computer, right? Like at nighttime. That might sound like a very small thing, but it is a good practice. And if I choose to send emails on Sunday while I'm watching the football, I set all those delay send messages so they go Monday. Because the other thing I realize as chair is when I send a message, people feel like they have to reply immediately. And even if I say don't reply, I realize I can't do that because they still reply anyway. So I really try to set the delay sends.
Well, that's another really great observation, Keshia, pointing to your not only emotional intelligence, but as a leader, when we sometimes don't appreciate the fact that in certain roles, despite saying, hey, I have an open door policy, email me anytime, take time for yourself, oftentimes people wonder, well, is that just kind of what she has to say, or is that for real? Does she really have an open door policy? Because I try to get in that suite and I can't even get in there and I can't even, so for real. But so that you said that authentically and you shows that, and then you're recognizing that people would still reply to you. Again, that's a trigger. That's an important leaderly lesson to know that you can say something all you want. Hey, call me Kim, call me Kim, call me Kim. But if certain people are like, no, I'm going to call you Dr. Skrupski. I'm going to call you Dr. Pollack Porter. I can't. My mother would kill me if she heard me refer to someone as, fancy as you as by your first name, to know that and then pivot. So I love that you just recognized that and said, I'm not going to fight that battle. And then engage in the pickleball on Sunday with the emails back and forth when I just said, don't bother replying to me. And then you've set that expectation. So I love that that's really kind of acknowledging reality from the real from the ideal. Ideally, you're not going to reply to this, but I know you're going to, so I'm going to prevent this whole game from happening.
Right.
So super, super smart. I'm wondering if you could, think along with me, flip side of this coin, because I know people who love to work. So it's not the phenotype of someone who is just, in the words of Oprah, the great philosopher, if you don't want to burn out, stop living like you're on fire. So there's some people we know who are like, they feel like they're on fire, they can't handle it. They're drowning, and those are the people we have to then give them permission to, like, let's step back, put on our own mask. But there are, on the other side, I know many people who work is their whole identity. It's their whole way of being. It's 24/7. If I'm awake, I'm working, and they love it. And there are no discernible negative consequences to that. How do we, what do you think about that group of faculty? Because I'm, as a gerontologist, thinking of, now I don't want to answer for you, but I'm seeing people like then toward the end of our careers, they're like, well, how can I retire? I got nothing else going. This is my whole life. If I'm not this, what am I? If I'm not the chair of the department, what else could I possibly be? I had no identity or purpose or meaning. So how do you notice people who are on the other side, that they are working, they are in the hustle grind, but they're loving it? What happened to that with that scenario?
Yeah. I think that's such an important question because, my initial response is, well, I love to work also. My husband always says, like, you love to work. And it's because I feel like the work I do is so important, right? It's about making a difference. Like, so I don't feel, unless I'm physically feeling tired, like, I'm like, I could do this all the time because I love what I do, right? And so I think that that's okay to love what we want to do and work hard. However, I do think there are long-term consequences. Like, I think about, I am heavily influenced by my family, and I think about things like my grandmother said to me about how I have a purpose in this world, and I'm here on purpose, and I truly believe that my purpose is not to have just my job at Hopkins be my full identity. There are other things that I do. It's spending time with my family, or being involved in my faith community, or service. Like, and I feel like those are around sort of it's about my calling and who I am as a person. And I suspect that even the people who feel like their identity is work, there are multiple parts of their identity that I hope that they reflect on and acknowledge. Because I would hate, I've had such wise people in my life who have said to me, don't waste your opportunities you have on this earth. Like, we don't know like how long we're going to be here. And I wouldn't want to feel like I didn't live out my purpose. Like, and again, maybe that's more of a philosophical way of approaching my life, or a healthy way of approaching my life, but I want to just name that. So even those people I feel like their identity is around that one thing, I suspect there's more there, and I encourage them to take a moment and pause and think about that.
Oh, Dr. Keshia Pollack Porter, so smart, very wise. Yes, and I've been coaching some people, and I see them, and hear them, and I feel that passion, like you describe it, that they leap out of bed in the morning, and they have to be like pulled by their partners to put the phone down, to close the laptop, to put the journal article down, and the hollering in the background. Are you gonna come to the thing? You said you're coming. I was just talking to Mike Weisfeld. Well, you know Mike Weisfeld,
Yeah, yeah.
and he's retired from Hopkins. He was the our chair, department director in medicine, and super super important, smart guy. And he's retired, but he's so busy, so active. We're on the Zoom call, and his wife's in the background. Mike, you said you were coming down to the thing. He's like, yeah, 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 I'm coming. She's like, and he, like, you can't. It's like he can't stop because
Yeah.
his brain, boom, on fire. So I've seen personally people who are so just charged by the work they do, and yet then it makes me a little bit, I don't say anxious for them, but as you described, having a full a full vision or experience in life, that we're not maybe meant to be so unidimensional.
Yeah.
We are like onions, there are layers, or there are pieces to the pie. And while I, you know, admire to a certain degree people who can be so laser focused and be all in and so completely committed to a thing, but it's like at the expense of what? So
Something has to give. Yeah.
sometimes, because I'm wondering how long can you sustain that
Yeah.
all in mentality if you don't have the other slices of the pie there, if you don't have the social community and the family and the friends and the hobbies and the faith and the creativity and the community engagement. And so sometimes I wonder, because then, what people are so smart, so passionate, so given, so uh, committed to their work, that they even maybe fail to appreciate that there are opportunities in those other spheres, because I'm telling you, there's rarely a week goes by when I'm not in my church and my pastor's dropping some wisdom, and I'm like, oh, that's like a faculty development
Right,
quote. I gotta, and then I'm grabbing my phone and I'm trying to find where he was in the Bible. Like, I don't want to go all Christian on people, but that's a leadership principle. And then when I go and, you in the community and hanging out and doing my pickleball, you hear people, and connections start happening. You start thinking, this applies. Just like in science, we go to other people's talks and you kind of say, oh, I could use that methodology, or those data sound interesting, or that clinical observation sounds. It's the same thing when you're in the wider world. There's
yeah.
a lot of information and data and perspectives that can enhance and broaden our science. Yes?
Yeah, and I feel like it makes me a better academic. It makes me show up better for my faculty, for my staff, for my students. And I mean, don't get me wrong though. I mean, I'm notorious for being the one who has a flight and we need to leave for the airport at 3. I'm on calls till 2:30. I do that all the time. Like I will take every single minute I can. And then it's like, okay, and then I'm in the car doing more emails. And then we get to the airport. And I'm like, okay, now I need to shut it down. And now I need to be present and focus on the person I'm with. But it takes intention. That's the other thing I'll say. It takes intention and it's discipline. Like I had to learn how to do that and give myself permission to do that and say, well, you know what? How about I pick up that book and just read that novel I haven't read? I don't need to pay for the Wi-Fi on the plane. I could just actually read the book, So I think it's being intentional. And I've messed up. I've done the wrong thing many times to appreciate the value and the benefits of giving myself that space. Because again, I think I show up as a better person every day when I do it.
That's good. That's great. Where will we mess up? So you just said mess up. And when do you know you're messing up? Because I know when I take the pulse check and as you're saying, be mindful, be intentional. When I do the kind of, ooh, whoa, what is coming at me now? I know when I'm like, I'm off equilibrium, when I look at my calendar and I'm saying, how did that creep happen?
Yeah.
How come I'm not at the gym doing because I couldn't because I had this, that, and that. Well, really, could I? And so just last week, I actually put on my calendars Wednesday, Kim has hard stop at 4 o'clock. Why? 4 o'clock, you might say. As I've told some colleagues here, I said, my favorite class is at this gym. It's a HIIT, it's a circuit training, high intensity interval training. And for whatever reason, at this gym, it's at 4:30. I don't know why, but it is. And so I'm like that, and it just it fills my battery, it fills my balloon. I am so excited to get to that class. I feel so good. And then when I'm done, I'm like, yeah. And I realize that when I'm not doing that, it's the second week in a row. I'm like, I am crunchy pants Kim. And
Mm.
what happens? Guess what? There's only 1 hour in the week when I have to take that class and it's there. There are all the other hours in the week when I could make up the work, send the emails, do the thing. So that being, being practical, being rational, like Kim, get out of this mindset of you got to be in at dark 30, leaving at dark 30. Otherwise, you're not doing it. That
Mm.
flexibility, that like step away a minute, take a beat, and then get back into it is just that's fine, and it works for me. And so that's when I
Yeah.
know when I'm out of balance. How
Mm.
about you? Or when do you know that you're off, or when your faculty are kind of like gone either way? Maybe they're being too liberal with it. I mean, how do you see that? Where does that arrive?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, first, I applaud you for your self-awareness of knowing like you need that space and that time, and you're going to build it in your calendar. I mean, for me, it shows up in my sleep. Like I get up early anyway. Like for me, I'm up early. I start the day with exercise, meditation, prayer, and like then I get my day going, and that's part of my routine. But if I get up earlier than I intend to get up, I know something's going on because like that's where it shows up for me. It is something in my brain that's like, you need to get up now. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, wait, I can't get up now. It's only 2 o'clock. But like when I'm up, like these really early hours, like I know like I'm a little bit off and something I need to really try to take a step back and breathe and kind of figure out what's going on. It's a little bit harder to detect in others. Like I try to create space so people will feel like they can name these things and feel comfortable saying it. Because I can, people hide, we wear a mask a lot in academia, right? And like I remember so many times early in my career, people would say, you make it look easy. It's so easy for you. And I'm thinking, it's not easy. But it felt like I couldn't show up and be like a vulnerable person. So what I try to do is certainly show up as that compassionate leader. Like, are you okay? How was your weekend? And oh, I worked on this grant all weekend. Wow. Like, tell me why. Like, what's going on that you had to do that all weekend? Or, and we all have those moments every now and then. But if that's happening every single weekend, then I think it's important to sort of take a step back. And so some of it gets back to the culture, creating a culture where people feel like they can be honest and share how they're feeling and know that it's from a place of concern and not to penalize you or hold something against you at some point in the future. And I think that's helpful for me to hear that from others. And I want people to sort of feel free to say that. And on the flip side, for myself, it's just it shows up for me in my sleep. Like that's how I know, like I'm a bit off.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely that. And I have friends who are like, oh, I know when I'm eating a lot of sugar, it's because there's something in me
Mm,
that I'm not doing. I comfort myself with sugar or with alcohol. And that's kind of the
mm,
moment of like, wait a minute, why am I craving this and wanting this? It's because there's something going on. And that's to your point of the awareness of why am I doing this? What's going on? And then take that breath and push back and say, wait a minute, is any of this, is the patient dying on the table otherwise, or is the building on fire otherwise? Why are we making something so urgent that we have to do this right now at the expense of, I mean, that is it that urgent that you must do this
yeah,
at,
yeah,
um, and push other things aside? So I think it's really good, as you're pointing out, to be aware to how we are taking care of ourselves, and it's not just fluff.
yeah.
It is building that culture, and it's, I don't know, I think it's great. I love how you model that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm glad we had a chance to sort of talk about this today. It was I think it's a topic I wish I felt like I could talk about more when I started my academic career as an assistant professor back in 2006. But something that I work hard and can be intentional in doing and being open about as a leader. So yeah, it's been a good journey. And I, again, appreciate you wanting to engage in this topic. I think it's so important.
Well, Dr. Keshia Pollack Porter, you are a wonderful example of a compassionate leader. Thank you for sharing your story with us, how you do annual reviews and how you build in that empathy, care, and concern for your faculty members as people, because after all, we are people first, right?
Definitely. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate you. Thanks for your time today.
Hello everyone, it's your podcast producer, Casey Callanan. Make sure to download our newest Faculty Factory ebook, The Academic Medicine Starter Kit. That book, along with 2 other free ebooks, are now available on facultyfactory.org. In addition, I wanted to let you know that as of November 2024, this podcast that you're listening to has had more than 92,000 total downloads and nearly 19,000 total YouTube views. The Faculty Factory website has drawn nearly 52,000 web visits from users in 122 different countries. We'd love to invite you to be a guest on our show, so visit the Faculty Factory website, facultyfactory.org, and send us a message there under the Contact Us link.
Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. The mission of the Faculty Factory is to build and support a community of leaders in faculty development who share tools, resources, wisdom, and encouragement in service to our faculty members, schools, and institutions. We encourage you to go to facultyfactory.org to find out more. Get in touch with me, ask me any questions. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. We'll see you next time. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Office of Faculty. For more information, visit facultyfactory.org.